My roommate kept stealing my stuff, so I made sure she got what she deserved. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. A shirt missing here, some makeup gone there, nothing major. I figured maybe I misplaced them or left them at a friend's place. But then, my brand new headphones disappeared, the ones I had just bought. That's when I knew something was off. I started paying closer attention, keeping track of my things. And the more I watched, the more I realized. Things weren't just going missing, they were being stolen. And the only person who had access? My roommate, Sarah. At first, she denied everything, acting offended that I'd even suggest it. But then I found proof, and if she thought she could keep taking my stuff and lying to my face, she was in for a rude awakening. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. The second my headphones disappeared, I knew I wasn't just being paranoid. Before, I had brushed off the little things, missing shirts, vanishing makeup, chargers that somehow got lost. I figured I had misplaced them, maybe left them somewhere. But headphones, expensive, brand new, straight out of the box headphones, there was no way I lost those. I searched my entire room, going through drawers, under my bed, even in my laundry basket. Nothing. The realization hit me like a truck. Someone took them. And considering the fact that I lived with one other person, the math wasn't exactly hard to do. Sarah. Sarah had been my roommate for about 6 months. At first, she seemed cool, friendly, laid back, the kind of person you'd want to grab drinks with after work. But over time, little things started adding up. Clothes that looked just like mine, appearing in her laundry pile. Beauty products mysteriously running out faster than I remembered using them. And now, straight up theft. I needed proof. If I accused her outright, she'd deny it. She always had an excuse. Oh, I have a shirt just like that too. Or, I thought that was mine, sorry. But I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. I needed to catch her red-handed, so I did something drastic. I ordered a cheap recording device online, one small enough to hide in my room, and once it arrived, I set my trap. I placed a few tempting items out in the open, a necklace, a bottle of expensive perfume, and a fresh pack of skincare products still in the shopping bag. Then, I hit record. If Sarah was really stealing from me, this time, she wouldn't get away with it. I set up the recorder in the perfect spot, hidden just enough that Sarah wouldn't notice, but with a clear view of my desk and dresser. If she was sneaking into my room and taking my stuff, I'd have solid proof. No more guessing, no more excuses. Then, I waited. The first night, nothing happened. I checked the footage, heart pounding, but all I saw was me moving around my room, setting things up, and eventually going to bed. A part of me wondered, was I wrong? Was she actually innocent? But on the second night, bingo. I sat at work, casually checking my phone, when the motion alert popped up. My stomach flipped. Someone was in my room. My hands shook as I opened the app, watching in real time as Sarah slipped inside like she had done it 100 times before. She didn't even hesitate. She went straight for my dresser, rummaging through my skincare products before grabbing the perfume and spritzing herself like it was hers. Then she moved to my desk and picked up the necklace, holding it up to her neck, admiring it in the mirror before dropping it into her pocket. I sat there, stunned. She wasn't just borrowing things, she was straight up stealing. And then, she did something that made my blood boil. She walked over to my laundry basket, plucked out one of my shirts, and tossed it into her pile of clothes like it was nothing. Like she had done this before. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. Bursting in there right now wouldn't do anything. I needed a plan, a way to make sure she couldn't lie her way out of this. So I let her go about her little shopping spree, then went home like everything was normal. When she greeted me in the kitchen with that fake friendly smile, I smiled right back. Because if she thought she could steal from me and get away with it, she was in for the shock of her life. I spent the rest of the evening acting completely normal, but inside, I was boiling. Every time I looked at Sarah, I had to stop myself from calling her out right then and there. How many times had she done this? How many things had she stolen that I never even noticed? But I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to humiliate her. That night, I backed up the footage, saved multiple copies, and even sent one to a friend for safekeeping. Then, I started going through my things, making a list of everything that had gone missing, things I knew I hadn't misplaced. As I checked, I kept glancing at Sarah's door. She was in there, totally unbothered, probably wearing my clothes, using my stuff, sleeping peacefully like she had nothing to worry about. That was about to change. The next morning, I made sure to wake up before she did. I walked into the kitchen, made coffee, and waited. Right on cue, Sarah walked in, yawning, wearing an oversized hoodie. My hoodie. I almost laughed. She wasn't even trying to hide it. "Morning," she said casually, grabbing a mug. I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Hey, nice hoodie." She glanced down and shrugged. "Oh yeah, I found it in my laundry pile. I think we just got our stuff mixed up." I tilted my head. "Huh. Weird, because I haven't done laundry in a week." Her grip tightened around the mug for a second, but then she smiled. "Oh, well, maybe it was just stuck to one of my shirts or something." I pretended to think. "Maybe, or maybe you just took it." The room went dead silent. Sarah blinked, letting out a forced laugh. "What? No way! Why would I?" I cut her off. "Sarah, I have you on video." Her face drained of color. What do you mean?" I set my coffee down and pulled out my phone. With a single tap, I played the footage, the clear, undeniable footage of her stealing my necklace, going through my dresser, and taking this exact hoodie. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Save it," I said, crossing my arms. "We're not done yet." Because I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to make her pay. Sarah looked like she was about to faint. Her hands were shaking, her mouth opening and closing, like she was trying to find the right words to save herself. But there was no saving herself. The footage didn't lie. I wasn't stealing," she finally blurted out. "I was just borrowing." I raised an eyebrow. "Borrowing without asking and hiding my stuff in your room?" I let out a cold laugh. "That's funny, because my headphones have been missing for 2 weeks. Were you just borrowing those too?" Sarah swallowed hard, her eyes darting around like she was looking for an escape. "I was gonna give them back, I swear. I didn't think you'd mind." I leaned forward, keeping my voice low and even. "Sarah, you didn't just take one thing. You've been stealing from me for months. Clothes, makeup, jewelry, even my electronics. And the worst part? I tilted my head. You lied, every single time." She let out a choked laugh, her panic rising. Okay, I messed up. But can we just talk about this, privately?" I smirked. "Oh, we're definitely going to talk, but not privately." I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and before she could react, hit dial. Sarah's eyes widened. "Wait, who are you calling?" I didn't answer. The line rang twice before someone picked up. "Hey, is this the landlord?" I said, my voice loud and clear. Sarah froze. "Oh, hi. Yeah, sorry to call so early," I continued, watching Sarah's face crumble. "I just wanted to report something about my roommate. I have video evidence of her stealing from me, and I wanted to know what my options are." Sarah launched forward, grabbing my wrist. "Oh my God, stop! What are you doing?" I shook her off, keeping my eyes locked on her as I listened to the landlord's response. "Uh-huh. Yeah, I can send you the footage right now." Sarah looked like she was about to cry. "Please don't do this. I'll give everything back. I'll pay for it, I swear." But it was too late. I had already hit send. The proof was out. The consequences were coming. And Sarah? She was about to lose everything. Sarah's face went white as she realized what I had just done. She lunged forward again, her hands shaking as she reached for my phone, but I stepped back, shoving it into my pocket. She was panicking now. "Oh my God, please, you don't have to do this," she begged, her voice borderline hysterical. "I'll give everything back. I'll buy you new stuff. Just don't get me kicked out." I folded my arms, staring at her with pure disgust. "You weren't sorry when you were stealing from me. You weren't sorry when you lied to my face. You're only sorry because you got caught." Her breath hitched. Before she could spew out another excuse, my phone buzzed, a text from our landlord. "I just watched the video. This is serious. We'll be discussing Sarah's lease immediately. I'll be over later today." I grinned. Game over. I turned the screen towards Sarah, letting her see the message with her own eyes. She covered her mouth, a strangled noise escaping her throat. "Pack your bags," I said simply. "Because you're done." Sarah lost it. "You're seriously ruining my life over some stuff?" she shrieked. "Are you that petty?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, that's rich. You've been stealing from me for months, and I'm the petty one?" I shook my head. "You did this to yourself, Sarah. You could have just been a decent human being. Instead, you acted like I was your personal shopping mall." Her whole body trembled as she gritted her teeth, her fists clenched. "You have no idea how hard things have been for me," she snapped. "I was struggling. You have money, you wouldn't even miss half the stuff I took." I scoffed. "You think this is about money? It's about respect, and you have none." She glared at me, breathing heavily. But for the first time, She had no comeback, no lie, no manipulation, nothing. And just like that, she finally realized she had lost. I turned away, grabbing my coffee like this was just another morning, and left her standing there, shaking. Sarah thought she could steal from me and walk away without consequences. But now, she was the one losing everything. Sarah spent the next few hours desperately trying to do damage control. I could hear her pacing in her room, whispering frantically on the phone. I had no idea who she was talking to, but judging by the shaky, panicked tone in her voice, I could guess. She was probably calling friends, maybe even her parents, begging for help. But there was no help coming. She did this to herself. Around noon, a knock echoed through the apartment. The landlord had arrived. Sarah flinched so hard I actually heard her drop something. I didn't even bother to look at her. I just calmly walked over and opened the door. Our landlord, a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense attitude, stepped inside. She didn't even glance at me. Her eyes went straight to Sarah. "We need to talk," she said firmly. Sarah hesitated, but she knew she couldn't stall. She nodded stiffly and led the landlord to the kitchen. I leaned against the wall, sipping my coffee, watching the show. The conversation wasn't loud, but it was brutal. "I saw the footage," the landlord said, cutting right to the point. "You were stealing, multiple times. This is a violation of your lease agreement." I wasn't stealing. I was just... "Don't lie to me, Sarah." Silence. Then, in a small, trembling voice, Sarah finally muttered, What happens now?" The landlord let out a short sigh. "You have two choices. Either you leave voluntarily and move out by the end of the month, or I file a formal eviction." Sarah sucked in a sharp breath. I saw her shoulders tense. "You can't just kick me out," she choked. "I pay rent." The landlord shook her head. "Your rent doesn't excuse stealing. You violated the lease agreement. I could call the police, you know. Technically, this is theft." Sarah froze. I saw her jaw tighten, her breathing shallow. For a second, I thought she might actually start crying. She was trapped. I took another slow sip of my coffee, barely holding back my grin. Sarah had spent months stealing from me, lying to my face and acting like she was untouchable. But now, she had 2 weeks to pack her things and get out. And I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Sarah sat there, completely frozen. The reality of the situation had finally hit her. She wasn't just being scolded or given a slap on the wrist. She was being kicked out. She swallowed hard, her face paling as she whispered, I don't have anywhere to go." The landlord sighed, arms crossed. "That's not my problem, Sarah. You had a chance to be a decent tenant, and instead, you stole from your roommate, repeatedly, and I don't rent to thieves." Sarah's breathing was shallow now, like she was on the verge of a breakdown. Her eyes darted toward me, desperate, pleading. "Please," she muttered, just tell her you don't want me gone. We can work something out. I swear, I'll never take anything again." I stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch, letting her squirm. Then, I simply shook my head. "No." Sarah flinched like I had slapped her. "No," she echoed weakly. "No," I repeated, my voice firm. "You stole from me for months. You lied to my face. You only care now because you got caught." I shrugged. "So number. I'm not saving you." The landlord gave me an approving nod, then turned back to Sarah. "You have until the end of the month," she said. "After that, if you're not gone, I'll file for eviction. And trust me, you don't want that on your record." Sarah's face crumpled, but there was nothing left to say. The landlord left soon after, and as the door shut behind her, Sarah finally broke. She let out a shaky breath, ran a hand through her hair, and whispered, "I can't believe this is happening." I tilted my head. "I can. Actions have consequences." She glared at me, her jaw clenched. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I smirked. "Oh, absolutely." She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "You're such a batch." I raised my coffee mug in a mock toast. "And you're a thief." Sarah stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. But I didn't care, because in 2 weeks, she'd be gone for good. The next 2 weeks were glorious. Sarah tried everything to make her situation better. She sulked, she ignored me, she even tried playing nice again. But I wasn't falling for it. She was dead to me. At first, she barely packed. Maybe she thought I'd change my mind. Maybe she was hoping I'd feel bad and ask the landlord to let her stay. But when she saw I wasn't budging, that's the last week was pure chaos. She stomped around the apartment, slamming cabinets, muttering under her breath, making sure I knew just how mad she was. But I just ignored her, living my best life. Then, 3 days before her move-out deadline, she snapped, I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when she burst out of her room and started yelling. "This is so fucked up!" she shrieked, hands clenched into fists. "You're ruining my life over some stupid clothes and a pair of headphones." I blinked up at her, completely unfazed. "You ruined your own life, Sarah. I just finally gave you the consequences you deserved." She let out a frustrated scream. "You're so goddamn petty. You had everything. You didn't even need that stuff." I tilted my head. "Then why did you take it?" Her mouth snapped shut. She had nothing. I stood up slowly, my voice turning ice cold. "You know what the worst part is, Sarah? If you had just asked, I probably would have let you borrow half that stuff. But instead, you stole. And now, you're homeless." That word hit her like a slap. Homeless. Her eyes flashed with pure hatred. "I hope you rot," she spat. I gave her the biggest, fakest smile. "Have fun packing." Sarah stormed back into her room, slamming the door so hard it rattled the walls. But I didn't care, because in 3 days, she'd be out of my life forever. The final days of Sarah's stay were awkward, tense, and absolutely hilarious. She had completely given up on pretending to be civil. Instead, she acted like some wrong victim, stomping around the apartment, slamming doors, and refusing to speak to me, like I was the problem. I wasn't the one who stole from my own roommate. I wasn't the one who lied to their face for months. I wasn't the one who got caught red-handed and ruined my own life. That was all her. She spent those last few days procrastinating like a child, barely packing, leaving piles of junk in the living room, like I was going to magically offer to help. Not a chance. I wasn't lifting a finger to make her departure any easier. Then, the final day arrived. Sarah's lease was officially over. By noon, she was supposed to be gone. But when I woke up, she was still there. She hadn't packed everything. Her room was half empty, but some of her furniture, her boxes, and random piles of crap were still scattered everywhere. She was stalling. I stood in her doorway, arms crossed. "Clock's ticking," I said casually. "Landlord's coming by in an hour." Sarah didn't even look at me. She just kept throwing random things into a bag, her face twisted in pure rage. "I don't need you reminding me," she snapped. I smirked. "You sure? Because it kind of looks like you're pretending this isn't happening." She whipped around, eyes blazing. "You're seriously enjoying this, aren't you?" I didn't even hesitate. "Oh, 100%. She let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "You're a real piece of work, you know that?" I shrugged. "And you're a thief. Guess we both learned something new." That was the last thing I said to her. Because an hour later, the landlord showed up, took one look at the mess she still hadn't packed, and gave her one final warning. "You have 30 minutes. After that, anything left behind gets trashed." And just like that, Sarah was out of time. I sat back, relaxed, watching as she scrambled to shove the last of her things into bags, sweat dripping down her forehead as she realized she couldn't stall any longer. It was pathetic. By the time she finally dragged the last box out the door, she didn't even look at me. No goodbye, no final words. She just left. And as soon as the door shut behind her, I let out the biggest sigh of relief. Sarah was gone. And my apartment was finally mine again. The moment the door slammed behind Sarah, a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying completely lifted off my shoulders. The apartment was silent, peaceful. No more stolen clothes, no more missing electronics, no more tiptoeing around my own damn space, wondering what she would take next. I did a victory lap around the apartment, checking every room, reveling in the fact that she was really, truly gone. Her room, completely empty, the closet, no more of my missing clothes mysteriously appearing in her pile. The bathroom, all my products were exactly where I left them. And then, I saw something that made me laugh out loud. Sarah had left one final parting gift. On the counter, in a crumpled paper bag, sat my stolen headphones. I picked them up, shaking my head. After months of lying, stealing, and acting like she did nothing wrong, she had finally given something back. Too little, too late, but hilarious nonetheless. That night, I celebrated properly, ordered my favorite takeout, put on a movie, and for the first time in forever, I actually relaxed in my own home. No tension, no paranoia, just peace. Sarah had thought she could take whatever she wanted and walk away without consequences. She thought I'd never notice, that I'd never fight back. But in the end, she lost everything. A few weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that Sarah was struggling. She bounced between friends' couches trying to find a new place. No one wanted to live with her. Turns out, stealing from your roommate tends to ruin your reputation. Did I feel bad? Not even a little. I had given her plenty of chances to do the right thing. She made her choice, and now she was paying for it. Some people think they can take advantage of others forever, that they can lie, steal, and manipulate without facing consequences. But karma, it always catches up. And when it does, it's brutal. Have you ever dealt with a nightmare roommate? Someone who made your life hell? Tell me your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.